Okay, so we're here under the hood of our 2022 Bronco. This is the 2.7 liter. This device, the Pulsar XT, part number 12452, works in both the 2.3 and the 2.7 liter. The installation is a little bit different, but it uses the exact same wiring harness. We're going to tap into the exact same two sensors. So on the 2.3, you can refer to the owner's manual, the instruction manual, on the locations of your sensors. They will be a little bit different than what you see here on this 2.7 liter. We're going to tap into our boost pressure sensor, which is located right here on the inlet pipe before the throttle body, and then the map sensor, which is on the back side of that throttle body on the top of the intake manifold. And then we've got a ring terminal to attach to a post on the positive side of the battery, and then we've got the wire harness will run into the cab where we tap into the accelerator pedal. But to install our connectors in the included wiring harness, we basically just piggyback into that factory sensor. So these have a white keeper on them that you can actually just pull back with your thumbnail and it'll click, and then you can press down on that white connector to disconnect it. Then we'll take our Pulsar XT harness, and one end will plug into the factory sensor. You'll hear it click, and then you want to close that keeper to make sure it stays connected. And then the other end of the harness will plug into the factory Ford harness. Again, you'll plug it in until it clicks and close the keeper. And then the map sensor, again, is located right up on top of the engine, right in the center of the intake manifold. It uses the same white keeper that we need to pull back and then press down on to disconnect it. And then our harness will do the same thing. We'll plug right into that factory sensor. These will only go one way, so it's really hard to get this installation wrong. This is a super simple install on these Broncos and something you can do yourself in about 20 to 30 minutes, to be honest. All right, we've got that connected there. I'm gonna close the keeper. We've got that part of it done. So we're gonna route this cable. We do include some zip ties in the kit so that you can make sure that you route this wiring harness away from any heat. Make sure it's not around any of this moving steering components, hot coolant lines, et cetera, et cetera. We're gonna tap in the ring terminal right here under this red. Open it up. We're going to remove this 11mm nut, and we're going to place the ring terminal on this harness onto that stud and put the nut back on. Super simple right there. Once that's secured, we can close that cover, and then we've got the other end of the harness goes through the firewall. There's a grommet located on that firewall that makes a really simple place to fish that through. You'll have to take a razor blade or a small knife, put a little slit in that grommet, and you can slide that wire right through there. Now we're going to move into the cab, show you how that installation goes there. Okay, so on the Bronco, we've got a real large grommet right here in the firewall that makes a good place for us to make a slit and run this access link through the firewall so that we can plug into our in-cab harness. Since this one already has that aftermarket stereo, we've already got a good spot through the grommet, so we don't need to make an access location. We can go right through where the speaker wires are running. So you can see we've run our cable right through that factory grommet. This is our access link for our in-cab harness. And then we're going to move over here to the throttle pedal position sensor. We're going to disconnect that and plug in our harness so we can get control over that throttle pedal. All right, so here on the throttle pedal, we need to disconnect that red keeper, and then we can press in on it to disconnect it. Get here with my other hand here. And then our in-cab harness is going to piggyback into that throttle pedal. One end onto the factory pedal till it clicks, close the keeper, and the other end into the harness itself. And then we can route our cable as we need. We're going to take that access link that came through the firewall, where you can see it. We're going to plug this together, just like so. And then our last steps are to plug in our module and plug into the OBD port. Let me reposition the camera for that. All right, the last step of our install is basically just plugging in our Pulsar XT module. It'll only go one way and it will click. We do give you some double-side Velcro so that we can attach this module here under the dash. I'll set that aside for now. And then we just need to route the OBD cable, plug it in right here to the OBD port. And now our installation is completed and we can move on to syncing our wireless switch and going through the app. All right, so we've got all of the harnesses plugged in where they need to be. The last step is to reconnect that negative battery terminal. Tighten up this 8mm nut. Again, you'll want to make sure you use the zip ties to get this harness routed where it needs to be before you go driving. But now we're going to work on pairing our switch with our module. Okay, so now we're going to work on pairing our XT switch to the module that we've just installed. To do so, we first want to power up the Bronco without starting the engine. So we're going to press and hold the start button. All right, you can see that the Bronco is now powered up. Now we're going to turn the switch over, and using our fingernail, we can pop the back cover right off of it. There's a little indent for you to do that with. And then we're going to go ahead and put our batteries that are supplied with the kit into the back of that switch. Make sure they're all positioned as they need, and then we can press that cover back on. As soon as we do that, you'll see that the switch starts to scroll through its power levels. We just want to place that switch right on the module. And it's going to scroll and search for the module. Once it does it, the scrolling will stop, and you can now see that the switch will only light up in the power level that we're currently in. So right now we're in, this is stock power level, and just by pressing the button we can go to level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now we know that our switch is paired with the Bronco. We're going to go ahead and mount the Pulsar XT module up under the hood, and then we're going to walk through the Pulsar XT app that you can download on your phone, available through the Apple and the Android stores. Okay, so we have installed our Pulsar XT module into our Bronco. We've got the wiring harness all done. We've got the module under the hood, or under the dash. We've even synced up our Bluetooth switch so that we have our power levels on the fly with the switch. Again, you can mount this with the included double-side Velcro anywhere that's convenient on the dash. You can even just leave it in your center console. That's the beauty of it being wireless. We can kind of do whatever you see fit with it. Now at this point you can go out and drive the Bronco. We've been out driving this one, and you'd be able to change those power levels at any time on the fly just by pushing these buttons. But to get the full feature set out of the Pulsar XT, we need to download the Pulsar XT app. Now this is available for Apple and Android. There's a QR code in our instruction manual that'll send you to the link so you can download the app. Once you get the app installed on your phone, you're going to want to go ahead and get in the Bronco, and you're going to turn the key on without starting it. And that's going to power up the module, and then we're going to go ahead and tell this app to retry because we now have power to the module. And then we want to make sure that the module is properly installed in the vehicle, ensure that our Bluetooth is enabled on the device, turn the ignition on, and then place the phone within a foot of that module that's down here under the dash. This is just the first time when we're trying to locate and sync the two. After our initial sync is done, the app will work at any distance from the module. So it says that it's connected, that this is, or detected that this is the first time we've connected to the module. We want to check to see if there's any updates available. We're going to select continue. Now it's going to connect to our servers, make sure that the calibration that's in your module is the most current calibration that we have available on file. It will ask you to log into your Update Agent account. If you don't already have one, it gives you the ability to register for it right here on the phone. I've already got one, obviously. So it's going to go through and check to make sure it's current. Our device is up to date, so we're going to select back. And now it's going to go ahead and open up the app itself. Takes just a couple of minutes for it to populate everything here. This first time we're connecting. You'll notice that it does tell you your device serial number, the part number of the device, what version it's running, and then here is our home screen of the Pulsar XT app. Now this is where you get access to all those added features that the Pulsar XT has to offer. First of all, we'll start with the power levels. Again, we've got our our Bluetooth switch that can turn the power levels up and down when we're driving. You can also turn those power levels up from the app. The one thing to note is that the switch will not work if you have the app open. So anytime you want to change power levels with the switch, you need to make sure the app is closed. But the beauty with the app is that we can go in and adjust our throttle pedal sensitivity in each power level just by selecting that button on the right side. Now each power level has these 7 different throttle pedal sensitivities. We can set it at stock. We can actually set it in the economy mode, which is less responsive than stock, but we can turn it all the way up to our number 6 ludicrous level. This gives you a really touchy, aggressive pedal feel. Some guys like having that feeling when they're hot rodding, or just some guys even like it when they're daily driving. Me personally, I prefer the drive or the sport modes for daily driving. It gives you a nice good pedal feel without it being too jumpy in stop and go traffic. But again, you can set these to wherever you want on each individual power level. So if you like running around on power level 5 with the biggest horsepower increase but don't want that extra touchy pedal, you can just go in and push on that number and we can change it to the setting that we would prefer. And it's as easy as that. So we give you some adjustability to kind of fine tune that driving experience. One of the other nice features with the Pulsar XT, this is kind of what sets it apart. This is one of the biggest selling features for this module in the Bronco, is the ability to adjust the tire size. So in the Bronco, it's pretty common for guys to be installing lift and bigger wheels and tires, obviously. So anytime we do that, our speedometer is not going to read correctly. So this particular Bronco is running a set of 37 1350s. Yesterday when we were testing using our GPS on our phone, with our cruise control set at 70 miles an hour, we were actually doing 75 on the GPS. So we were off about 5 miles an hour. So with the Pulsar XT, we can go in and calibrate that tire size to anything up to a 36.3 inch tire. Now I know you think, but I've got 37s, so it's still not going to be accurate. The one thing to remember is that a 37-inch tire or a 35-inch tire or whatever size you've got on it very rarely will stand that actual height once it's mounted, balanced, and on the vehicle. So this 37 1350, once it was on the vehicle with a tape measure from the ground to the top of the tire, it only measures about 35 3/4 inches tall. Same thing with a 35-inch tire. You'll usually find that those are only about 33.5 inches once they're mounted on the vehicle. So if you'll input the actual measured tire height, that's where you'll get your most accurate speedometer output. So for guys running 37s, you're going to be covered. This will calibrate up to that. For the guys running 40s, you can go all the way up to that 36.3. That's as far as the Ford ECM will let us go without setting check engine light or a code in the ECM. So we've limited it to that 36.3 so you don't have that code set in the system. So if you're running 40s, we can set it at 36.3. We can get you as close on that speedometer as we possibly can without having an issue with the factory ECM. So we're going to set this one at 35.7, and then we're going to tell it to update the tire size. You'll see our dash will trigger, the headlights will flicker. It's asking us to turn the key off. So we're going to power down the Bronco. We're going to select OK. Now it's asking us to turn the key back on. So again, we're going to turn it on without pressing the brake. So we're just powering it up without the engine starting. Select OK. It's going to send that update to the vehicle. And we've now successfully changed our tire size. So now our speedometer is going to read correct with our bigger tires. Another nice feature with the Pulsar XT is the ability to adjust your TPMS settings. So we can go in and change your tire pressure settings, front and rear. So if you're running aftermarket wheels and tires, or you're doing some off-road crawling, we can lower that TPMS setting down to a much lower pressure so the light doesn't come on the dash until you reach that set pressure. The other nice thing is that we can completely disable the TPMS system. This is nice for you guys that put aftermarket wheels and tires and did not install tire pressure sensor. So rather than deal with the light on the dash, we can just disable the system altogether. Super nice feature. our auto start stop. This is one of the biggest selling points. I don't know anybody that drives a newer vehicle that enjoys the auto start stop feature that the OEMs are putting in this vehicle. So a lot of our products allow you to disable that for good. In the Bronco with the Pulsar XT, what it does is it remembers your previous button setting. So since Ford gives you a button on the dash to disable that auto start stop system, this will remember what that button was set at. So every time you get into the Bronco and start it, it will remember what that setting was before. So if you've disabled the system with the button, when you shut it off, the next time you get in it, it's still going to be off. You won't have to press that button every time you get in the vehicle. We've got an ability to turn off the honk warning when you get out of the vehicle. With the key fob still in the vehicle, we can turn off that warning. It's just kind of a nuisance. We've got our diagnostic system, so we can read and clear trouble codes, and then we can also check our readiness monitors for our emission system on the vehicle. On the Bronco, we have access to some lighting options. This gives us the ability to keep our fog beams on with our high beams. We've got a dark mode. We can do some adjustment with the headlamp switch, daytime running types, and then we can also adjust our amber daytime running lights. Just kind of fine tune the vehicle. And then we can also do our remote start duration. We can set that anywhere from 0 to 15 minutes right here in the app. Up here on the top left, you've got the hamburger menu. This basically opens up, shows you your account, the device info, what app version you're running, what calibration you're running in the module, and then we can get access right to our product store. And then we've also got some quick connects to our customer service. So if you ever have questions, you can get right to our tech support. Obviously, we've also got a link in here that sends you to our website with some definitions of what every one of these features does, how everything works. And then obviously you can visit our social media channels, our YouTube page, kind of get some more step-by-step features on how this device works. But we really think that you'll appreciate the way that the Pulsar XT changes the way that Bronco drives. It makes it a much better driving experience, better throttle response. You can absolutely feel the added horsepower. That EcoBoost motor really works well with the changes in calibrations. The other nice thing with Pulsar XT, compared to some of the competitive modules on the market that are plug and play like this one, in our testing, the competitor's device isn't adding or changing the factory calibration until you're at, say, 10 PSI boost. So it's not making any changes unless you're close to a wide open throttle situation. So you don't feel that added power until you're at wide open throttle. With Pulsar XT, we're actually manipulating those curves basically off idle. So you can feel the added power when you're just daily driving, when you're accelerating from a stoplight. Regardless of how much throttle input you're giving it, you're gonna have that increased torque down low, the added horsepower. Obviously, you really feel it when you're at wide open throttle, but we are manipulating those curves so that you can feel it in normal day-to-day driving. And that really sets it apart from the competitor's device. In the 2.7 liter, again, we're seeing gains as much as 49 horsepower. The 2.3 was a little bit less than that, but still very impressive, and a definite kick in the pants that you can feel from the seats. So please visit our social media, give us some feedback on your thoughts. And we look forward to seeing you guys out on the field.